Welcome to my YouTube channel. You're watching Save Our Children TV. My name is Charles. Welcome back to my YouTube video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn post notifications on so you'll be notified every single time I drop a brand new video on this channel. Now, I have six stories for you guys. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe on my channel. It's my 1998 show. This channel, outlining our communities, crime time. It'd be an honor if you do so. Hit up my social medias on Facebook, Charles Parker, on Instagram, um, Charles Parker, on TikTok, Charles Parker, Snapchat, and share these videos. So, our first story, we have six stories, like I said. The first story is an update on the daycare in Brooklyn on ABC News. Finally, the third person is arrested in Bronx fentanyl daycare case. Search continues for the owner's husband. So the third person has been arrested in connection with the New York City daycare drug operations that resulted in the death of a 1-year-old boy. Vinny Antonio Parra Paredes was taken into custody Saturday and charged in federal court with conspiracy to distribute narcotics. He appeared in federal court in Lower Manhattan on Monday and was ordered to be held without bail. And that is amazing. The three arrests in this case stem from the death of a 1-year-old Nicholas Dominici, who died on September 15th following exposure to fentanyl at his daycare. Three other children ranging in age from 8 months to 2 years were hospitalized and treated with Narcan. Police said an analysis of urine from one of the victims confirmed the presence of fentanyl, officials said. Investigators found a kilo of fentanyl stored on kids' playmats at the daycare, along with a device to press drugs and bricks for sale. According to court records in a trap floor under the daycare play area, investigators found fentanyl, other narcotics, and drug paraphernalia, police said. The first two to be arrested were daycare owner Greg Mendez and her tenant Callisto Acevedo Brito. They face federal charges of narcotics possession with intent to distribute resulting in death and conspiracy to distribute narcotics resulting in death, as well as state charges including murder. Mendez's attorney has said she was unaware drugs were being stored in her daycare by Brito. Her husband's cousin, to whom she was renting a room for $200 a week. A search is ongoing for Mendez's husband, who, according to court records, was seen on video fleeing the daycare out of a back alley, carrying two trash bags. New images of Mendez's husband were released Monday, allegedly showing him walking out of the daycare with his bags. Paredes isn't being charged yet by the Bronx District Attorney's Office, which has charged Mendez and Brito with several charges including murder, manslaughter, and assault. Federal investigators said a search of Brito's cell phone records found that he was in consistent contact with Paredes, allegedly about the drug operation, according to the criminal complaint. Paredes was making daily trips to the vicinity of the daycare in the weeks leading up to the children's poisoning, according to the complaint. After he was arrested Saturday, Paredes allegedly lied about his visits to daycare and whereabouts earlier in the day, the complaint said. Later that day, investigators searched the apartment he was allegedly staying in with his aunt and found bags filled with drugs-making materials, the complaint said. One of the items recovered was a stamp with the same identification that was used to glass sign envelopes found in the drug-making material recovered from the daycare, federal investigators said. I want to say this. Attorney information for Paredes was not immediately available. Federal authorities last week promised to hold accountable anyone linked to the daycare. But I want to say this to that female attorney who continues saying that his client didn't know this was going on in the daycare. Now, you had to ask yourself, you had to ask yourself, so here is the news video. But you had to ask yourself, um, does this attorney that's representing this woman really care about the victims in these cases? Or do he really care about his client feelings and emotion, which it shouldn't be about? It should be about the victims that are now changed forever because of this.
Breaking news, we are now getting a first look at the man police have been looking for in connection with that Bronx daycare where a 1-year-old boy died of apparent fentanyl exposure. He is the husband of the daycare owner. Investigators say these are security camera images that show him carrying shopping bags out of the daycare before police arrived at that scene a week and a half ago. His wife and cousin are in custody. Meanwhile, today, a third person was arrested in connection with that case. Prosecutors allege that Rini Antonio Para Paredes is a drug dealer who did business with the daycare that's suspected of doubling as a drug operation. In addition to the 1-year-old's death, 3 other children were seriously hurt in this apparent drug exposure.
Green joins us now live from Lower Manhattan with the new details from prosecutors. Kendall, what are we learning about this suspect?
Hey, good evening, Steve Natasha. That third suspect has been charged in connection with that alleged drug operation that left the 1-year-old dead and 3 others sent to the hospital. Now, just to be clear, this is not the husband of that daycare owner who's still on the loose tonight. But federal authorities, they say 38-year-old Rini Antonio Para Paredes was staying in an apartment containing narcotics and packaging material bearing the same stamp as packaging material found at the daycare just weeks ago. Now, federal prosecutors charged the defendant, known as El Gallo, with conspiracy to distribute narcotics resulting in death in connection with the poisoning of 4 children under the age of 3, including 1-year-old Nicholas Dominici, who died after being exposed to fentanyl. Now, Paredes is in custody and was presented today before U.S. Magistrate Judge Ona T. Wong. Now, prosecutors say around July through at least September, Paredes and others, including Gray Mendez and Carlisto Acevedo Brito, conspired to distribute fentanyl, including at the child's daycare center in the Bronx. Now, despite the daily presence of children, including infants, Paredes and his co-conspirators kept large amounts of narcotics, including a kilogram of fentanyl stored at the top of children's playmats and hidden traps located in the floor of the room where children played and slept. Now, authorities found in the traps material packaged narcotics such as glassine envelopes used for sale and distribution of drugs, which had been stamped with Red Dawn. Now, following the arrest of Paredes, law enforcement officers, they searched the apartment where he was staying and found drugs in that apartment along with glassine envelopes with the same red stamp that with Red Dawn collected at the daycare. Now, law enforcement officers also found the stamp itself with Red Dawn at his apartment. Now, as for the 2 known defendants, Gray Mendez, the daycare's owner, and Carlisto Acevedo Brito, a man who rented the room where they were hit with federal narcotics conspiracy charges. Now, as for the third defendant, Paredes, if he's convicted, he could face up to 20 years minimum and up to life in prison if convicted. But that's the latest from the federal courthouse. Kendall Gray, Fox 5 News. Steve Natasha, back to you.
All right, thanks, Kendall.
All right, my closing thoughts about this. 2 things need to happen. I have 2 words. Convict these cowards. That's one. And the second one is throw away the key. These individuals, it's not the first time they've been doing this. You, eh, I'm pretty sure this been going on in this decade for a while. And it's the first time that they were caught. But I'm pretty sure the investigation is going to unfold and let us know as a general public that they've been doing this in this decade for a minute. For a minute. Selling drugs out of this daycare. So, yes, I'm glad they're charged with federal offenses, state offenses, and they need life in prison. They need not to breathe fresh air again, to take a life of a child because y'all was so busy dealing drugs, so busy worrying about selling it and not protecting those that was in your custody. Three additional children are hospitalized because adults care more about criminal activity than the well being of the children they were monitoring and babysitting. You got to be careful who you leave your children with. You have got to do background checks. You have got to know who you give your children to, because you would never know. You'll be surprised when you do a background on these people and it turns out they're drug dealers. It turns out that they, killed someone. It turns out that they did this or they did that. See, this is a moment that a background check should have been done. I'm not blaming the parents of victims, but I think that this is a message to the American people, whether you're white, black, Asian, Caucasian, any race. If you're putting children in daycare in 50 states in a country, do background checks on these people. These people can be your worst enemy. Do a background check. Well wishes to those who are still critically in the hospital, and condolences to the victim's family. And may your family and their other families get justice, because this was uncalled for. It was selfishness, recklessness, and uncalled for. So let's move on to our second story. Three teens are killed in Richland County. On AP News. APnews.com. Three teens are killed out of Richland County, South Carolina. So South Carolina is going to take an air. So three teenagers were fatally shot in South Carolina and two schoolmates have been arrested. Columbia, South Carolina. Two people showed up in an abandoned house where four teenagers were hanging out and opened fire, killing three of them and wounding the fourth in an escalation of an old quibble over a burglary. Authorities said Monday in Columbia, South Carolina. Two 17-year-old Eau Claire high school students were both arrested on three counts of murder, one of attempted murder, and possession of a weapon during a violent crime. According to the Richland County Sheriff's Department, an investigation is ongoing and more arrests could be made. Deputy Veronica Hill, a public information officer, told the Associated Press Monday afternoon. The teenagers who were killed also attended Eau Claire High School, according to statement from Craig Witherspoon, the district superintendent. The lone survivor attended a nearby middle school. The district provided additional counseling and security at a high school Monday in response to the unimaginable tragedy, which Witherspoon described as senseless gun violence. So I'm gonna look the news article up. I'm about the video up, and then we're gonna go from there.
We begin tonight with devastating news out of Richland County. Three teens are dead and a fourth person is injured following a shooting this afternoon. The incident happened at around 2 p.m. along the 200 block of Saddle Trail Road. That's in a residential area near Crane Church Road and Fairfield Road. Deputies arrived at the scene to find four people with gunshot wounds. All of the victims were taken to the hospital, where three of them passed away. We're told that they were between the ages of 16 and 17 years old. The fourth victim was treated and released. That person's age has not been made public. The Sheriff's Department urges anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-888-CRIME-SC.
All right, my closing thoughts about that story is I don't understand why these teens out here think they can just open fire in a residential neighborhood, a gas station, or anywhere and kill and injure people. What gives you the entitlement? That's number one. Number two, you got to know who your friends are and who you are associating with. Your friends can be the devil. You never know. And so this was over a burglary, which is dumb. You killed three people over a burglary, supposedly. And at the end of the day, both of you are 17 years old. Both of you ruined your lives. And both of you are going to go to prison for the rest of your life. And for what? Something that you could have just sat down and talked about. Gun violence is never the answer. And three families are devastated right now. Three families lost children. And at the same time, same day. Can you imagine getting that phone call or the police coming to your door, knocking on your door, telling you your child is dead because of an alleged burglary? Or, it's crazy. I just don't understand. I don't understand why we use guns as paper. A gun is a deadly weapon. It is not gun violence. Shout out to AFC. It is thug violence. It is thugs who chose to carry guns and use guns as tools, as a hammer, and use it as a stick. When you shoot someone and someone dies, you're looking at life in prison. And in most states and cities, it can be considered death penalty. Okay? If someone's injured, it's called attempted murder. It's called aggravated assault. You can't go around and humiliate people, shoot people, kill people, and think that this is just okay. Two 17 year olds, probably juniors in high school, ruined their lives because of what? Something that was very stupid. And was it worth it? You gotta ask yourself, was it worth it? Probably not. But you have a lot of these teens today, very entitled. Now, something over their way, it's their way or it's the highway. So parents out there, talk to your teens. Know who your teens have friends with. Know who your children are associated with. If you can't get your teens under control, it's you gotta let them learn the hard way. But this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. Richland County, Texas takes an L. We're gonna move on. Condolences to the family of the three victims and the fourth who were injured. Make a speedy recovery. And their suspects, life in prison or the death penalty. Now this story is crazy. A Highland mother was just sentenced for OWI after she killed her three sons in Iraq. I never heard about this story, but we're going to talk about it now. Highland mother sentenced. Let's see. I'm on wwmt.com. News 3, Channel 3. Michigan is going to take an L. Michigan. And to be exact, Highland Township, Michigan. So Michigan mother is sentenced to 5 years for icy crash that killed her three sons. A Highland mother will spend the next 5 years in prison for a crash that killed her three young sons. Leticia Gonzalez, 31, was sentenced with the following Monday. One count of operating while intoxicated, causing serious injury, fine of 408, prison for 24 to 60 months, and 71 days credit. Three counts of moving violation causing death, 365 days in jail with 71 days credit. On February 17th, 2022, Gonzalez drifted into the center lane on James Street before hitting a curb, rolling and crashing her car into an ice coated pond, according to Ottawa County Sheriff's deputies. She escaped the crash with minor injuries, but her three sons, Jerome III, who was 4 years old, Jeremiah, who was 3 years old, and Josiah, who was 1 year old, drowned in the pond's polar waters while strapped in their car seats. Deputies believe Gonzalez had been impaired with 2 doses of methadone, a medication used to treat drug addiction and pain relief, the morning she crashed her car. However, Gonzalez withdrew the plea 2 months later after a judge rejected the plea deal that called for her to serve only a year behind bars. The plea was ultimately accepted August 28th. I will play a news video, but the video they got is basically not a news video. It's basically her in court being sentenced. So my closing remarks about this story is number one, why would if you know you're intoxicated in the first place, under the influence of drugs, why then would you transport three young children in a vehicle while you're under the influence of drugs? One. Two, it is icy outside, and that's another indicator why you shouldn't be driving while intoxicated with children in a vehicle. So, 5 years to me on a plea, I just for killing her three young sons because she chose to be under the influence and a driving while intoxicated and plowed into an icy pond. Well, 5 years it's not enough. Again, she senselessly killed her three children. My opinion, I think she at least should have got 15 years in prison for 5 years each for every son she killed. So that's 5, 10, 15. I just think that we give women less time in prison. If a man did this, believe it or not, he would have spent almost 14 years in prison, no question asked. He probably don't had he probably wouldn't be able to get a plea deal, you know. So she better have a decision. And, can she redeem herself from this? But I would say maybe. It depends if when she get out of prison, she get the help she needs while she in prison. And then when she get out, she get an extended help. She needs to be in a residential treatment facility when she got out of prison. But while she in prison, she needs to take classes on parenting in the future. But hopefully she don't have any more kids because clearly she's not a responsible adult. Two, I think she needs counseling. Three, it just different things that she needs. This right here is devastating. There's a family out here that's devastated because of your actions and had to lay three of their family members to rest. And at the end of the day, she chose to be careless. She knew she was under the influence. She shouldn't have been transporting no children in a vehicle. And 5 years, in my opinion, is not enough. And again, I think the system dropped the ball. A plea could have been 10 or 15. You know, 5 years, that's not enough. She killed three of her children by putting them in a vehicle while she was under the influence. Drove them and crashed into an icy pond, drowning all three of her children. And in my opinion, I just think she should got significant prison time. She should have got a much severe prison time. So that's my opinion. We're gonna move on. Condolences to the family. And may those three children continue to rest in peace. Our fourth story is the train collision that killed six people in Florida. So let's talk about it. So on CNN, six people are dead, including three children, after a train hit an SUV, smashing it like a soft drink can, Florida sheriff says. Six people are dead, including three children, after a train struck an SUV as it crossed railroad tracks in Hillsborough County, Florida, Saturday evening, according to the sheriff's office. Responders had been left shaken by the resulting scene of carnage, which left the Cadillac Escalade SUV looking like a soft drink can that's been smashed. Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Coron- Shronister told a news conference Saturday. The freight train had been traveling at over 55 miles per hour when it hit the SUV, which was taking seven people to a quinceanera party, Quanister said. Video footage taken from a camera on the front of the train appeared to show the SUV's driver pulling up to the crossing and driving slowly across without stopping to look both ways, the sheriff said. The conductor of the train did everything he could to slow down as the vehicle approached, as well as sounding long horns and flashing the train's lights and warning. He said a witness parked by the trucks said he also hit his horn to alert the SUV driver. Chronister said. After being struck, the SUV we can see from the video begins to catapult and flip violently several times before it landed on distance from this crossing, Chronister told reporters. Deputies and first responders arrived at the scene of the collision just before 7 p.m. Saturday and immediately began rescue efforts, Chronister said. First responders were able to rescue the driver and front seat passenger of the SUV and took them to Lakeland Regional Hospital in critical and serious condition, Chronister said. The five other the other five passengers of the smashed Escalades were all violently ejected and pronounced dead at the scene, Chronister said. Sheriff's Office spokesperson Jessica Lang told CNN Sunday that the driver of the SUV died overnight in a hospital. Lang identified the deceased as Julian Hernandez. Lang identified the deceased as Julian Hernandez, who was 9, Jacob A. Lopez, who was 17, Alyssa Hernandez, who was 17, Analia Hernandez, who was 22, Ana- Anadia Hernandez, 51, and Jose G. Hernandez, age 52. The victims' connections to each other was still being established, Christopher said Saturday, but added, I believe tonight Hillsborough County lost one of its families. He said the scene of the crash has been trouble to see. Anyone who goes sees the carnage that been created. Whenever you compound that with the fact that some children lost their life here, maybe an entire family lost their life here tonight, we are all visibly shaken. Coroner said we were all rattled at our core after witnessing what happened here tonight. The railroad crossing where the collision occurred does not have level crossing arms to stop cars from crossing when a train is crossing through, Coroner said. We're going to stop it there. I was watching a news video, and you could see there's now like train, like it's usually white, but it's like it's the arm that comes down, train goes past, the arm comes back up, and people cross. There's none there. And my opinion is this is like the first time someone was killed in this same train track. Um, Years ago, I believe they said that one other person was killed while crossing that same track because they crossed not knowing a train was coming and it was hit and killed. Now, my thing is this: after this happened, you might want to put a railroad stick down so cars can stop before crossing the tracks because then you can save people's lives and people don't got to cross and worry about being hit by a train and killed and injured. So, it's a sad situation, but I think that, and it's not like private property, I guess, when you cross the track to the other side. So Still, they should put some type of safety measure over there. They needs to put a stop stick so cars can stop before crossing the track, especially when a train is going to come. Because if you already know cars ain't going to stop and they're just going to cross anyways, I mean, it's dangerous for any and everybody crossing that train track. So, condolences to the victims and to the young man that is still in the hospital, um, injured from this crash. Um, we hope that you make a strong recovery, and it's a sad situation. Family of six is killed. One is in a hospital fighting for their lives. It's a crazy ordeal, you know. But to be a teaching lesson that you gotta be careful when you cross in crosswalks, especially when you cross the train tracks. You gotta look both ways, pay attention, know what's in front of you, what's behind you, the side of you, each way. Just be careful when you step at a train track. Um, you never know, and let's just be courteous. And but to continue now, this one's not gonna have a news video or an article, but story number 5 out of 6 is multiple brawls at a popular haunted attraction in Buffalo this week. So over the weekend on the 23rd, which was Saturday, there were there's a haunted house attraction that's going on now. It runs until November, at the end of November, and there've been brawls. There've been fighting, teens and people are just fighting at these haunted houses. And my thing is this, and I think it's sad that we can't even have fun, right? And what I mean by that is, like, we can't have nice things in the communities because it's ruined by selfishless individuals who probably should have been at the haunted house in the first place. If you cannot maintain your emotions, if you're gonna go there just to fight outside of a haunted house, maybe you shouldn't be at the haunted house because you're ruining it for so many other people who would like to go and enjoy themselves at the haunted house and for the upcoming Halloween. We're right around the corner from October. People are going to start going to haunted houses in a couple of days. Why would you want to ruin it for people? Because you got so in your feelings they can't talk nowadays. And all people know how to do is swing and use their fists. It's not gonna get you anywhere. It's gonna land you in jail. So let's think about that for a second. One person was detained, but there was no reports of arrest. I think that and the Buffalo police had different departments there patrolling, and I think that needs to be security measures at these houses because it can get rowdy, it can get out of control. Typically, you know, people eat and drink alcohol and do all that before they go to these haunted houses. So tensions can raise high. So I think they should have some type of security because at this point, this is what's happening at these haunted houses. We gotta be more safe, more secure, and prevent stuff like this from happening. So, fortunately, shame on these people. Now, our last story is also crazy. Story 6 out of 6. 6 out of 6. I'm on 8 News again. Florida is going to take an L. Believe the story is out of Florida. Yep. Florida's going to take it now. Gainesville, Florida, to be exact. Florida siblings ages 10 and 11 is stopped while driving mom's car on freeway going 200 miles from home. A A 10-year-old Florida boy and his 11-year-old sister, who was running away to California, drove 200 miles, 320 kilometers, in their mother's car before they were stopped by sheriff's deputies on an interstate highway, authorities said. The Alucha County Sheriff's Office says deputies spotted the sedan on Interstate 75 near Gainesville in North Florida just before 4 a.m. Thursday. The children's mother had reported a stolen her children missing for hours earlier in Northport, a city in southwest Florida. The deputies, thinking that they were dealing with car thieves, drew the guns and ordered those inside the car to step out. Much to their surprise, deputies observed a 10-year-old male driver exit the vehicle along with his 11-year-old sister, the department said in a statement. The children told deputies the girl had been upset that their mother had taken away her electronic devices for misbehaving, so the boy was driving her to California. The children were interviewed by detectives who said there was no indication that they had been mistreated by their mother or anyone else in the home. The mother declined. The mother declined to press charges, and the children released to her. The names of the mother and children were not released, of course. Now, I want to say this. What type of punishment do you think these children should receive? I'm not saying the mother should have pressed charges. I say that, in my opinion, sometimes you gotta be more strict on your children. But two, this is a prime example why you cannot give your children any and everything they ask for. Because this is what they would do in return. They would take advantage of you. They would start stealing your stuff, your car, your phone, anything, money, anything. So parents, you just got to be more official when it comes to your children. You can't be your friends. You can't be friends with children. And this is a case here that this mother is by the way, a single mother. She's dealing with delinquent children. But I mean, this goes on in most of American families, most homes in America. And so I think this mother, in my opinion, I would have did was before I punish my children, is drove them to the jail and let them take a nice little tour to jail and tell them that this could be you if you continue doing the things you're doing. It's not a place you want to be, but you got to teach your children right from wrong. Two, after that, they've been punishment for a very long time because this right there could have ended badly. They could have got into a car wreck. They could have, what I'm saying, anything could have happened while they were driving that vehicle. And I think that, especially when there's no father in a home, these children are called adolescents. It's hard. It is hard. And I feel for the mother. But you can't be soft on your children. You gotta be hard. You gotta be strict. It's the same way you gotta raise your children. Because when you start raising children at a young age, and then they start growing like a tree, that tree will then make bad decisions. It would start dropping apples. So it's like a child. The child will start dropping the emotions. And now you're dealing with children that's out of control. And we just like to do more when it comes to parenting our children. But I got one good question. How the hell they get the access to the keys? Where were the keys at? For them to get a hold to the keys, you gotta ask yourself: was the keys laid around and they just took the? You can't leave, especially when you have young children. You cannot leave your car keys around the house. You can't leave them on the table. You can't leave them in your bedroom bed. You can't leave them on a couch, nightstand. None of that. You gotta have them keys put up where your children cannot get access to it. And for this mother, I'm glad her children wasn't hurt or furthermore killed because Florida is one of the busiest traffic jams. California takes number one, Florida takes number two. Then you're dealing with rural areas like Ohio and all different places that is traffic is dangerous. We're dealing with road rage in America, so I feel for the mother, but I say get your children some help. They obviously need significant help, and uh, it's different as you get your children back in a perspective. You got to send your children away to get some help. Send them away. To a program. Like a anger management program, counseling program, something. So, come to about these stories, like, comment, subscribe, turn post notifications on so you're notified every single time I drop a video. I will be dropping a video on Thursday. I will be um, dropping videos tomorrow, Wednesday, Friday, and have a great night. And I'll see you guys on Thursday. Peace.